some sense. We almost didn't come back, but we did come back. Here we are.
Let's do this. Hey,
Hey, oh my gosh, are we doing it?
the audio is working.
All right.
That's a start. Welcome to the comic book preview stream.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the books that come out tomorrow.
Yeah, and even some that came out last week
Even some that came out last week.
that we didn't talk about for a variety of reasons.
There's so many books.
There's
so many.
That's actually a common complaint that I have. There are just too many dang books. I can't keep up with them. It's ridiculous.
You can't read them all. Well, what's the first one? What we got up
Well, talking about there being too many dang books,
let's talk about that.
I'm contributing to the problem.
Yes, you're creating more of an issue.
If you've been coming into the store for the last 3 weeks, you've seen this as a free special Ashcan preview that I've been handing out. Emerald Stingray, new #1. It's on Kickstarter right now for 2 more days. So this is gonna be the last week that I'm gonna push it on you, but I'm gonna push it hard.
You better get on it. You better get on it.
If I know a lot of you might be waiting for when we get it in the store, but I'm telling you right now, if you want the special variant cover, that's the homage to Amazing Spider-Man 129, not available in the store. That's only available on the Kickstarter. That's like to tease you with the cool covers and make them exclusive.
Yeah.
So if that's your thing, definitely want to check this out before Thursday at 8 p.m. That's when we finish. All right, let's move on. Some actual books that come out this week.
Moving on to books.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Bone by Jeff Smith. I read Bone a long time ago, and I haven't read it recently, but I'm so relieved to know that there's new Bone comics out there. Jeff has kind of returned to Bone every now and then to just do random short stories and stuff with characters, and it's really cool. So I haven't read this one yet. I'm excited to. It's just some Bone short stories, just adventures that take place in the world that he's created, and I'm especially excited because there is a short story that's illustrated by one of my favorite cartoonists, Stan Sakai, of Usagi Yojimbo. And we talked about him recently. He's been doing the Usagi Yojimbo Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. and so it's just fun to see him drawing the Bone characters.
What's this Bone all about? Is this an older book?
It started in the 80s.
Okay.
What makes Bone so fascinating is that it was one of the books that really was a success story for the direct market in comics that came out in the 80s. Up until the 70s, comic books were only available in like grocery stores or the newspaper rack, you know, drugstores, things like that.
Yeah.
And then comic book stores started becoming a thing sometime in the 70s. And then by the 80s, you had a pretty robust direct distribution network. So that's where the Ninja Turtles started, for example. So people could just make their own book, and they didn't have to try and get it into this newspaper distribution system to get it worldwide. You could just send it to directly to the comic book stores, and it was created so many booms in the comic book industry.
Boom.
And Bone is one of those books. It was before. It wasn't like marketed. It was an all ages book, but it wasn't made to be a part of like these new. Now the books are scholastic. You know, they're definitely
More
like
for
in your
children.
schools.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
at the time, it was just a comic that Jeff Smith wanted to make, and it's naturally just kind of his style. And it's a really great book. I really like. It's just it's a fantasy setting, like a kind of a mythical Bone world. The main characters are like these little cartoon Bone characters, and there's humans in it, and dragons and other monsters, and they just go on adventures. It's really, really good. It's one of my go-to recommendations when parents come in looking for like books to get their kids into reading. Bone is like almost number one all the time. Really, really good.
Get the Bone.
That's right. Yeah, and it has one of those names that's perfectly innocent, but in the wrong mind, you might read into it
Great
too
book.
much.
Check it out. Hey, Serena.
Hello. So another book I want to highlight. This is the collected edition of Mark Miller and Juanan Ramirez's Nightclub. I think I talked about this when the issues were coming out. This. If you know anything about Mark Miller, he is a very simple, high concept type of guy. He's like the expert at the elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so this book is really simple. A bunch of teenagers get turned into vampires,
Oh, cool.
and they decide to use their vampire powers to be superheroes. Pretty much it.
That's
and
awesome.
then they have to fight other vampires because it turns out there's like a secret plot going on. You know, because that's a vampire thing.
Yeah, vampires are always.
Vampires are always, you know, they got master plans and yada yada yada. But yeah, no, this is it's. I run hot and cold with Mark Miller. Like sometimes I feel like he's trying too hard to be a little like over the top with everything that he does.
Yeah.
But I appreciate just like the straightforward nature of Nightclub. It's like a bunch of dumb kids. They're a little flashy. Like the main character, he's trying to be a popular streamer. In fact, like he wants to be an influencer,
Nice.
and then he kills himself.
Can he be seen on camera?
Not without wearing his costume. So that's why they wear the full body costumes with like the luchador masks and stuff. Which I like that as like a fun explanation for why they have like the full Spider-Man-esque bodysuits.
Yeah.
Because they literally cannot go out in the sun. You know. So yeah, it's good. And as I understand it, I know they were referenced in Miller's current big crossover that he's doing, Big Game. I don't know if they're going to show up at some point, but his new series that's tying together all of his book series. This is one of his more recent book series, so I don't know how much it's going to have to do with that. But as I like it because you can just enjoy it as like a simple story about kids getting turned into vampires and then becoming superheroes.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Not widely reported.
Talking about simple superhero stories. So DC Comics has a couple of weird manga books that are coming out this week. This first one here is Superman Meshi, I think is what it is called, Volume 1. And it can't get more straightforward than what this book is. It's just Superman going to Japan and eating ramen noodles. And that really is. It's just like he went on an adventure in Japan. Try and hold it up so the lights so you can see it. And he tries ramen noodles for the first time and then becomes obsessed with them. In fact, they're so good he loses control of his heat vision because he's just like overwhelmed by how delicious this ramen is. And it is funny. It also reads almost a little bit like propaganda. Like, 'cause they're like
for big
for Big Noodle in Japan, because it's like he gets obsessed with the noodles. He can't eat regular American hamburgers anymore because he just misses the delicious flavor. And they like, the whole story is just him detailing everything about Japan's ramen noodle industry. Like, he goes to the restaurant, he describes the menus. It has a certain charm. There's a part where he like takes Batman with him so that he can introduce Batman to his new favorite thing. It's pretty funny. It's that really what it is it's more like a slice of life type of manga, which is a very common type of manga. But what makes this unique is that it's Superman and not just like a university student who's trying to juggle, going to class, but he's obsessed with eating ramen noodles. Like this is just Superman, but he's obsessed with noodles.
It says this is the type of propaganda I'm here.
That's right. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now the next one, in the similar vein.
Oh yeah.
Much weirder. This has gotten a little bit of popularity online. I've seen some people talking about this one. This is Joker. One Operation Joker, I guess is what it is. This is the basic story of this. The high concept of this is that Joker fights Batman. I think, did we talk about the preview? I think we
talked
did.
about the preview a little bit.
Yeah. So Joker's fighting Batman. Batman falls into a vat of toxic waste, and he gets turned into a baby. And Joker decides that he has to be Batman's daddy and raise him right. Now, what I like about this comic is, so I've seen some people kind of complaining about it, like it's because it's manga and it's just so ridiculous and so like such a stupid premise and so over the top. And I guess to those people, I would say this feels right in line with any Batman comic that you might have read back in the 60s, even the 70s, maybe before Neil Adams took over. But this is like Julius Schwartz era Batman comics, like 50s and 60s. Like weird stuff happened all the time. Aliens were showing up and turning him into things, So
was not aware of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they used to be weird. So I would not be surprised if there even is an old comic where Batman gets turned into a baby. But what makes this kind of funny is that there's kind of a logic to Joker's motivation, because Joker's whole thing it plays with the trope about Batman and Joker, about how like they need each other. I mean, they say Heath Ledger says it in The Dark Knight. Where it's like you can,
Yeah, one can't exist without the other.
Right, and so there's kind of that like Joker's kind of has this weird relationship with Batman where maybe he's in love with him, but he also hates him. It happens with intense frenemy relationships.
Yeah.
But so I kind of like the motivation, the logic to this is Batman gets turned into a baby, so Joker decides he has to raise him right so that he'll grow up to be Batman, so that they can continue to fight, and Joker can prove how stupid his ideology is for justice. So again, it's like a simple slice of life manga, but with the Joker, where he's got to figure out how to take care of a baby, and while still trying to do his crimes, like he's running out of money because he's spending all his money on baby food and clothes.
Amazing. And
they have to try and get him into a boarding school, and so he's got to fly, and it's pretty ridiculous. But you know what?
Incredibly ridiculous.
It's funny. It made me laugh. So I have been reading a lot of like older Silver Age comics, so maybe that colored it a little bit. It just felt right in line with it. I understand all you people that love your Zack Snyder Batmans and your Tim Burton Batmans. Maybe you're not used to Batman being silly, but Batman has been silly before.
I feel like Tim Burton Batmans were pretty silly.
It was right on the edge. Like everybody goes to that one as like when Batman got like serious, but I mean, it's like you forget who Tim Burton is.
It's just like Tim Burton doing his dark movie thing.
Yeah,
there's always like that humor.
It was still campy.
There's always whimsy.
Yes, there's whimsy, exactly. So I enjoyed this Joker book. I think it's something if you want something that's different, I'm sure kids might like it just because it's manga. But I think adult Batman readers can enjoy it in the context of it being just like an odd, weird Batman story. Very odd. It's a very odd, weird Batman story. All right, now next up, not an odd, weird story. This is a book that came out last week, and I forgot to talk about it because I missed it when I was browsing the shelf, but I read a preview of this book that we got a few months ago. This is called We Are Not Strangers by Josh Tuninga, and it is, I don't know if it's strictly autobiographical or just based. It says it's based on a true story, and I think it's based off the stories of his grandfather and probably a few other people that he knows. But it's basically the story. It takes place during World War II, and their family is Jewish, and it's about the things that his grandfather did to help their Japanese neighbors while they were being sent to an internment camp.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so this is again just taking a hard pivot away from that baby Batman Joker story.
Right.
This
yeah.
is like pretty heavy in stuff, but like it's still, you know, it's told through that lens of like that generational lens. So it's somebody looking back and discovering these things about his family that he previously had not known. Like the story opens with the funeral for his grandfather, and it's a Jewish family, and so there's like all these Jewish people there, and then all of a sudden all these Japanese people come in, and they're just like, why are there so many Japanese people at this Jewish funeral? And the story kind of unfolds, and you
find out what he did.
Exactly, yeah. And so it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say. I think what I like about this is this. In many ways, this feels like a simpler story of the era. Like this isn't. Like, oh, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember her name. You know, this isn't the story of like hiding Jews from the Nazis in the attic. You know, Anne Frank. This isn't Anne Frank's diary. Yes.
I didn't know who you were referring
well,
to.
I mean, it's.
There's a lot darker stories.
There are darker stories out there, but this still is. I think that's kind of what makes it powerful is that it is such a. What's the word I'm thinking of? Just not necessarily related. I guess maybe it's more relatable because you can see how easily something like this can happen, and it doesn't have quite the stakes that's like a traditional World War II, like the people on the front lines were dealing with. I think as a reader in comfortable 21st century America, you feel a sense like a little removed from that, where it's like, how did things get to that point where bombs are exploding? Whereas this story is something that happened in America, and you can connect the dots a little bit easier than when you're dealing like an Anne Frank situation where you're just like that would never happen in America. And then you kind of see this, and it's not to the same degree, but you can see how the seeds of this get started. And I really liked it. It's a very, it's a heartfelt story. It's longer than I would have expected it to be, because again, it's mutually as much of about like a celebration of his grandfather's life, and then also him as he's discovering it and learning it. Yeah. So there's a little bit of like family history in here, just the way their family operated, and then how it kind of mirrors the Japanese families, because there's that layer to it where both of the families are immigrants to America, and because the Jews, his family specifically, were escaping Europe because of what was happening there, and the Japanese family had been there longer. They were just there to immigrate to America, and they were having a harder time of it in America. So there's a little bit of there's like some layers of irony to it, and certainly tragedy. Yeah, it's a really good book. I've talked about this before on the show. I really like historical fiction, and I like autobiographical comics. And so this is definitely something you should look up. And I think if you like this kind of thing, you're going to really enjoy it. All right. Yeah, We Are Not Strangers. And, it's important, Now let's talk about something that's not important.
Well, maybe not as important.
That's your opinion, man. Best of Mechagodzilla.
Right.
I think I've talked about some of these before. IDW puts out these best of books, and I have a soft spot for Mechagodzilla. There's just something silly about a giant robot Godzilla fighting Godzilla,
Amazing.
And so what I like about these books is that they're $7 and they collect essentially 4 comics worth of stuff in them. So it's like not quite a full book, like a trade paperback book, but you get a good mix of stories just kind of focused on any one character. So I was really not initially going to talk about this, but I just wanted to make a special highlight. There is a story in here. Actually, I should check out which issue it's originally printed in. It's from Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters number 10, and the art is by an artist that I really like named Victor Santos. And he just has a really cool style. I've never seen him do Godzilla before, so I was really excited. Yeah, right here. He's got, for any of you art connoisseurs out there, I would say his style is a little reminiscent of like Darwin Cook, and even like maybe a little bit of Frank Miller in there with some of his figures. Like there's some cartooning and stylization going on, but I like his heavy use of blacks, and it looks really good for Godzilla. And it's just, this is just an action story of Godzilla fighting Mechagodzilla. King Ghidorah is there, but like it just looks really good. And I'm not the world's biggest Godzilla fan. I know people that are way more into Godzilla than I am.
It's a definite thing.
But it's a thing. It's totally a thing. Yeah. But I enjoy it, and if you're into Godzilla and you haven't, you're not familiar with that series, I just wanted to make a little special shout out. Victor Santos, awesome artist, and he draws a cool looking Godzilla.
I think the art looks great.
And it shows up in this collection, Best of Mechagodzilla.
Mechagodzilla. So was Mechagodzilla created by the humans to fight Godzilla because he kept destroying Tokyo?
Well, that depends on like which continuity or which era of the movies you're talking about, or which story. But I mean, generally speaking, I think that's probably where they're at now with the comic continuity. I mean, that's what the newer movie was.
Right.
You know?
Oh, they had to create.
It was it was the corpse of Ghidorah that they turned into Mechagodzilla.
Okay.
Did you even see the King Kong versus Godzilla?
No.
Oh my goodness! Look at this. I can't even. Next book. I've talked about this book before in the stream.
Yeah,
Weird Work by Jordan Thomas and Shaky Kane. Shaky Kane is an artist that I really like. Just weird, bizarre. This is in with a different artist, this would just feel like a pretty straightforward detective story. But Shaky, he's a weird guy. He draws like weird character designs. Everything is silly and absurd, kind of gross sometimes, but I really like it. It's not like anything you will see in any other book. It's just so unique, and it's 100%. I'm selling this on the art. Although I do like the story. I don't want to undersell the story. It's just one of those things that's just overshadowed by the art. You're either really into this art or you're not into it.
Right.
And this is very much. I've talked before. We've made jokes about homages to Kirby. Shaky Kane is one of the biggest ones. Like, I feel like if you don't like Jack Kirby's art, you're probably not going to get Shaky Kane's art either. But when it clicks, it really clicks, and it's just unlike anything else you'll ever read.
That's definite vibe of its own.
Yeah, I like just weird characters, Walrus guy.
Stuff.
Yeah, but and the book's funny too. I do think it's really entertaining. So this is just one I'm highlighting on my personal life. I'm a big fan of this. I recognize that it's not one of those books that's for everyone, but if you were curious about the type of stuff that turns me on, it's Weird Work.
Check it out.
Okay, now maybe a book with a little bit more universal appeal. Shazam! And I picked out, this is the variant cover by an artist that I really like named Chris Samney. He does awesome comics. But this is written by Mark Waid and drawn by Dan Mora. I'm very happy to see this book back on schedule because it was delayed for 2 months while DC did their Night Terrors crossover, and if you watched the past streams, you heard me complain about that. But I'm glad this is back on track. Mark Waid is a great writer who really understands. I've talked about this before. He bridges the balance between classic, like Silver Age fun superheroes and more sophisticated modern characters and writing. So it doesn't feel like a throwback, like it doesn't feel like a parody of somebody doing like, this is what a silly comic in the 70s felt like. Right. But he definitely is able to capture the spirit, which I think is really important especially for a character like Shazam, who obviously predates the Silver Age. He's a Golden Age character.
Oh, yeah.
But really like this book, glad it's back. Dan Mora is another great artist. This was the team that was doing Batman Superman World's Finest, which is a book that I've talked about a lot I think we're kind of in a, look, there you go, T-Rex and a top hat. What more do you need in your superhero comic? Yeah,
Just because of that.
just because of that. I'm glad to see, Taki Tani, he's a Shazam character I really like. I don't want to repeat myself, but I say it every time I talk about Shazam. Shazam is kind of the one character I wish wasn't in the DC continuity. Like, the character, I think, works better just in his own universe, like where weird stuff can happen, and you can just have talking tigers, and you don't have to try and explain it. Because the DC it's all blended together to kind of be that proto real world, like a reflection of our modern life, but with superheroes in it.
Well, that is like similar to Superman, right?
Very similar. So similar that the Fawcett Comics lost a lawsuit to DC over copyright infringement, and that's why DC owns Shazam. And so maybe I'm a little bit don't copy. Get out of here with that. Shazam is red, Superman is blue.
Well,
There's a difference.
But other than that,
I actually think,
so different.
if you want to get into it, Superman has ripped off Shazam more than Shazam ripped off Superman. But we don't really have to get into that. Over time, Shazam started fully formed. Over time, Superman started slowly just taking all these aspects of the Shazam. The whole family, the family of superheroes, that's all started out of Shazam. A lot of things. So another book that came out this week. I think I've talked about this a few times. Ghost Rider Wolverine. So this is one of those little mini crossovers that Marvel did this last month, where they put out two specials. There was Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Alpha #1 and Omega #1, because they can't make it simple. It has to be as complicated as possible.
So will there be an Alpha #2 and Omega
No. This is the last issue of the series. Alpha #1 is the first issue, and then it continues into like Ghost Rider #16 or whichever issue came out that month. Then it continues into Wolverine 36, whichever came out that month, and then it continues and ends in Omega #1. See, this is a way to trick people into buying comics that have #1s on them. Instead of just being a 4-part story, it has to be
#1.
Exactly.
You think it's worth something?
You think it's the beginning of a story, and you would be wrong. It is the end of a story.
I'm gonna buy this #1. It's gonna be so valuable.
Right. But we talked about this story, just like Ghost Rider and Wolverine, the two coolest characters in the 90s. This is, so I don't think I talked about all of these issues because it came out weekly like this. Like I said, it was like a little mini crossover that they did this month with Ghost Rider and Wolverine. In the last issue, Wolverine gets possessed by a demon. And he becomes It'll happen. When you're riding around with Ghost Rider, there's demons around.
You're gonna get demonified.
And he turns into the Helverine. And the demon that possesses him just wants to murder mutants. So Wolverine becomes like the ultimate mutant murdering demon machine. And Ghost Rider has to fight him and stop him.
That can be a problem.
I don't want to spoil the end, but things happen. There's some nice looking shots in this book. It's exactly, like flaming Wolverine. You can kind of get a sense of the adamantium skull, like where it's like, I think they do a good job of kind of trying to differentiate that. Yeah, you got the flaming claws.
Dude,
yeah,
that's pretty big.
So
I know what my new back tattoo.
Yeah, that's so
get that. That's
yeah, right there.
Bring that in. I want this on my back.
I like this book well enough. I think I had told you I was getting a little sick of the current Ghost Rider series, and this is what kept me along for the ride. I feel like maybe it didn't need to be a 4-issue crossover month for the month. This could have easily been like a 2-part story stretched out over these 4 issues.
Yeah.
That's just how it's done in comics these days.
That's how they're doing it.
You got to get that extra $5 out of everybody. So, if you enjoy Ghost Rider, if you enjoy Wolverine, you will likely enjoy this comic, but I don't think I can really beyond that. If you just don't, if you can enjoy it just on the imagery of Wolverine and Ghost Rider, you will like this. But there's really not much else to it.
Wow.
So, and you know what? I did enjoy it on that
all
level.
All style, no substance.
All style. That's the definition. Okay, all style, no substance.
I get you. I get what you're saying.
Now here's a book coming up next. This is a book that came out last week, but we did not get copies. A lot like stores in our area, the distributor messed up. So we finally get it today, a week late. Conan the Barbarian #2. Now this is a book that is all substance and all style.
Oh wow.
So I think I talked about this for issue 1 when it came out. This is written by Jim Zub, who is a writer that I like, and he wrote the Conan series at Marvel a few years back. He followed up Jason Aaron's run. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jim Zub's Conan book from a few years back. It felt a little soft, like it didn't have that Conan edge. And so this is not a book at Marvel because Conan the Barbarian is no longer. Marvel doesn't have the copyright. He's public domain now.
Oh, so anybody
can publish a Conan the Barbarian comic. And Marvel's like, well, if we don't have a monopoly on it, we're not going to publish it. They just dropped it, canceled their book.
Wow.
So this publisher, Titan, picked it up, and they're like, well, we'll do Conan.
We'll get weird with it.
And they got a great artist, Rob De La Torre, and they got Jim Zub, who is a good writer. And I have to say, I feel like he's really, really stepped it up to really like lean into like full-on Conan.
Yeah.
This is what I like about it. It looks cool. It looks great. The art is fantastic.
Got that old school.
It's got that old school vibe, and
sure.
it's also a dense book. Like just in complete contrast to what I was saying about that Ghost Rider Wolverine comic, where it felt like it was.
It's all big pictures.
It was all big pictures,
Yeah.
like full lot of double page spreads.
Yeah.
Spread two issues worth of story spread out over 4 issues. This is like one solid story. It's heavily written, it's dense, but it's not overwritten, is how I would describe it. So like it knows when to just let the art speak for itself.
Very cool.
It knows when to provide the narration. There's like heavy it feels very much in the spirit of, because Conan is a literary character, if I can make that
Oh yeah.
if I can make that claim.
Yeah.
Robert Howard's original stories are fantastic. I really like them. And so, yeah, I am just really into this current Conan book, and I think all Conan fans are really going to like it.
Can't go wrong with Conan.
I mean, he's just the coolest.
Beefy dude, big sword,
Right.
barbarian.
And unlike Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie, he's
Yeah.
not just like a big dumb guy.
Mhm.
Like, he's actually like a really clever, sly warrior. Like, I like Conan.
Looks and brain.
Yes, right. He's the whole package. All right, we got one more book to talk about this week.
Ooh.
As we know, I always ask a coworker to pick out an issue to read, and this week, our friend Kia picked out this book. He read it, and he said he really liked it.
Nice.
And I looked at it, and I said, Harley Quinn, I don't think I want to read that. But then I looked a little further, and I saw, ooh, Big Barda. I think I do want to read that. Now, Dan,
Don't know anything
I
about
know
that.
for the uninitiated,
I'm definitely uninitiated. I know Harley Quinn.
you know Harley Quinn, certainly.
That's some sort of bat lady.
Yeah, so that's one of the Bat women, that girl. It's
That's,
Cassandra Cain, I'm not
that's
sure.
the Sparrow or the Hawk or
Black Canary.
Canary. I was so close.
So close.
Oh, man.
And this other character is the one that most people are probably not going to know. That's Zealot. She is a character in Wildcats, which previously was a part of the Wildstorm universe. And I don't remember which book we were talking about a few weeks ago, but I made mention of how weird it is to see these Wildstorm characters in DC books.
Yeah.
Because like their whole thing was that they were cooler than DC, and they were kind of like they were the future of superhero comics, and then they just got bought by DC, and now they're in DC comics.
Exactly.
So this book is written by Kelly Thompson, and it's drawn by Leonardo Romero. And first of all, I have to say I really like the art. I'm not super familiar with Romero's art.
Got an old school vibe.
Old
man.
school vibe,
Big time.
and you know me.
Like that, yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
I like my comics to look like comics.
Yeah.
But it's
Even
really,
the paper even has that vibe. to it.
I think what really stands out to this is the coloring. Like I really like this coloring in this book. It just, like you can see these expressions. Like they're really, like the characters are all very expressive. So I'm not trying to say it's plain art. It's quite the opposite of plain art, but it still retains that, just like that tone and that feeling. So the biggest draw for me reading this book is Big Barda. I kind of really like Big Barda. She's a character created by the guy, the man, the king, Jack Kirby.
Okay.
And she was created back in the 70s. She was in a romantic relationship with Mr. Miracle.
Oh.
And she's
Well, as
so
you do,
yeah, and she's from the planet Apocalypse, which is Darkseid's planet. And she was like, she worked for him, and then she eventually wrote. That's the whole story about that's a whole other thing. But now she's kind of a hero.
Yeah, she's kind of a good guy.
I really like her because like Kelly Thompson writes her really well in this, where she's not human strictly. She's not from Earth, so she has a bit of an alien quality to her.
Yeah.
She's pretty much, I would say, Thompson is really writing her kind of like a female Conan the Barbarian,
Nice.
where she's really tough. She doesn't talk much. She's like doesn't really understand Earth all that well, so she just has but she's been here long enough that she gets it. But there's just that slight tinge to her where I really like her, and so I was really glad she was in this book, and even more so, I was really glad that I liked her in this book.
Right. She was written well.
Yes. So this first issue is pretty much, it's just a gathering of the team issue. So this is Black Canaries putting together this team for a secret mission, and they don't say what it is.
Well,
so she's got to go out.
Secret.
It's a secret, exactly.
Yeah.
So I won't spoil it, but the final page, like they reveal the mission, and it's a pretty good hook. I thought it was cool. It's very this whole book is very female centric for obvious reasons. It's the Birds of Prey. That's always been their thing. If I can just get over my general distaste for Harley Quinn, she's not terrible in this book. I don't read Harley Quinn.
Right.
I really enjoyed the character in the Batman animated series as Joker's sidekick. I realized that the character is kind of moved on beyond that.
Yeah.
I don't like my problem with Harley Quinn is like she keeps showing up in the DC universe in places where I feel like she doesn't need to be.
Right.
And this is
she's popular
because she's a popular character.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Suicide Squad movie is like that, where it's like we have a Suicide Squad, we need to send these elite soldiers in to do this suicide mission. Also, Harley Quinn is there, and she's just because what's Harley Quinn with a baseball bat gonna do against like a guy shooting lasers and smashing buildings?
Really good.
And so she is, and that's this issue kind of tries to at least rationalize that, where it's like her real skill is like her unpredictability, and she's the wild card, which that worked really well in the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode.
Yeah.
Charlie's the wild card, so that's definitely a character trope, and she fills it. And I'm not a Punchline fan either. You know what? I know even less about Punchline than I do about Harley. Punchline's like the new Harley Quinn. She's Joker's new girlfriend or something.
Oh, see, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Press the button. I don't know anything.
Just press the button. But I don't. I look at Harley Quinn and she just feels very much like DC's girl Deadpool character.
Okay.
And a lot of times she's written like that, where
that's fair.
it's like it's funny because of how zany she is, and with a character like Deadpool, and I'm somebody who like really loved Deadpool and now really hates Deadpool because I can't stand him. But with a character,
too much Deadpool.
It is too much Deadpool. But with a character like Deadpool, at least he has like something that's extremely useful in these types of superhero situations, which that he's basically invulnerable.
Yeah,
so you can just
killed,
you can send him on a suicide mission, and it's like there's that. But like Harley Quinn doesn't even have that. She's just tough, and she knows how to kung fu fight, and she's crazy. So I'm sorry, all you Harley Quinn fans out there. I know there's a lot of you too.
I mean, it just doesn't drive engagement. I don't know.
Right. You know what? All I'm saying is I'm on Team Big Barda, and I will stick around on this book. Like I said, despite my objections for Harley Quinn, Big Barda, she's the new. I guess I don't want to be too weird about it, but she's big and she's tough, and
you can be attracted to a comic book character.
No, I'm trying. Just those there's so many memes, like just the memes of like have you seen the meme about like the I don't even know their names, but it's like the really really tall reporter woman standing there, and then like the tiny little MMA fighter like looking up at her,
and it's like
that's
favorite meme.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. That's Big Barda and me, just like she's just looking up at her, and she could just crush you at any second.
It's fine.
So
wow, don't out me down. I know what you're about. It's awesome. Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
Harley Quinn. She's in that.
She's in it. You know what? She's popular, and people are gonna look at this book just because Harley Quinn's on the cover.
She's a popular character.
Yeah, but
she's a lot of fun. She has a bat. She does crazy stuff.
She does actually have the bat on the cover.
The
like
that's
her thing.
That's the bat right there.
It's right there. It's like she can't be drawn without the baseball bat.
Yeah,
I miss the Jackals personally. I feel like she'd be more useful if she just still had the Jackals running around with her. Maybe she does. I don't actually know.
I don't know. I don't read enough Harley Quinn to know.
It's okay. I'm all out.
We're out of books.
We're out of books. That's what we got.
That's it.
There's a million other books coming out tomorrow, but this was all I had time to look at today.
So many books. Got to go to the comic book store. If you don't buy your comics here, buy them somewhere. There's something for everyone. I mean, even today we talked about Conan the Barbarian, we talked about post World War II, drama, and we talked about Harley Quinn. I mean, I don't know if we can get much more different than a lot of these, but there's something out there for everyone. So go check out your comic book store if you don't find them here. You're gonna find something you like, and we will see you guys next Tuesday when we talk about the comic books that come out next week.
Yeah.
See you then. Everyone be good.